got pepper sprayed. So what we're being told is that the campus security, and now we're seeing these flares, and it looks like a fire is going to erupt as well. So campus security, apparently, oh my goodness, that was a firecracker. A very dangerous scene. Live right now on Goodnight LA. Our crew obviously in the thick of it. We want to make sure our crew is safe as we're bringing you these live images of just utter chaos breaking out on the campus of UCLA in Westwood right now, with that person there all dressed in black, hood on, spraying what appears to be pepper spray. That's what Chelsea Edwards was saying, that she got pepper sprayed, and she was having a really hard time speaking. Her eyes are stinging. We do have a security team with our crew, so security is there as well. But first and foremost, we care about our crew's safety. We want to make sure they're okay. This guy is in a stance. It's unclear if this is a UCLA student, where these people came from. Earlier in the day, UCLA administration took a different stance on these protesters and said, enough is enough. You need to move out. Otherwise, you could face disciplinary action. We understand that campus security, though, left, and you see the barriers that are all in disarray right now. Well, these people, let's call them suspects at this point, they came in and they just were starting to dismantle the encampment. They were throwing down those barricades, and oh my goodness, and that sounded, you're hearing the cries of the people on campus right now, students, perhaps.
Hey, man, there goes that newsman again. Really? They pepper sprayed two guys.
We're hearing bombs go off, it sounds like. If those are fireworks, we're seeing the spark of that as well. We're hearing coughing, of course. This is something that we certainly didn't expect to kick things off tonight. Earlier, it was a much calmer scene out there, of course. We do not know who these people are, if they are all part of the pro-Palestinian movement, if they are students. Obviously, a lot of them are dressed in black head to toe. We're seeing those barricades moved up again. It's really hard to make sense of, what we're bringing you live on the air, as our photographer is there battling everything as well. We appreciate you so much. It doesn't look like any security is out there whatsoever in terms of campus police. Has completely got it out of hand. I'm pausing as I just get a look at this as well.
I know about that.
Okay, so this is where the tent encampments have taken over the quad at UCLA. And this has been going on. This is night number 6, and it was just today that the chancellor of UCLA came out, issued a statement, and said that we are going to change our strategy, and that you do face discipline if you're not going to leave. And that was that. We didn't see anything else beyond that. There were some security officers brought in. Now we're seeing some people here carrying an Israeli flag, making their way into this pro-Palestinian encampment. This is just such an incredible live picture and a live scene. We have Alex Michelson now here joining me on Goodnight LA. Alex, I've never seen anything like this, where all of a sudden it went from calm to utter chaos.
Yeah, we saw that statement earlier tonight, Marla, that both of us were talking about on our 6 o'clock news, when the chancellor of UCLA, basically, who had said almost nothing for days, put out a statement essentially saying, we're done with this, saying that this is now a basically illegal gathering, and it's time for it to end. And that is what that led you know that something was probably coming from UCLA in terms of it's time to shut this thing down. This comes on the same night that we saw at Columbia University, the NYPD moved in. And this is the first UC school that we have seen, because we have seen other demonstrations at other UC schools where the administration has now made the decision, we're moving in and we're stopping this thing. And that is what we're looking at tonight. It was concerning earlier in the evening when we saw some, I saw especially online, some overhead video of some of the demonstrators inside the camp appearing to prepare for potential battle with police. Chelsea was talking about this idea that some of these demonstrators were getting lessons on how to deal with police. We know that there are students in there who have genuine concerns about the way that Palestinian people are treated in Gaza. But there are other anarchists that have nothing, that really don't care that much about what's happening in Gaza and want to stir things up. We have seen these people at different demonstrations over the years, and you are now seeing it on the campus of one of the great universities, the most applied to university in the country, UCLA, which looks like anarchy right now, and there are anarchists who are in the middle of this.
They are literally throwing the barriers there at each other, jousting what appears to be metal poles. You have to wonder, where is campus security? Where are any sort of public officials? I mean, this is...
So the University of California has its own police force that is its own thing, that has the same rights as the LAPD. Where are they right now? And if they need to call in help from the LAPD, I mean, campus police have jurisdiction here, the UC police, but they have the right to call in help from the LAPD, from the LA County Sheriffs. And where are they? You're
seeing a lot of photography happen right now. Photographers out there obviously photographing this. There's one gentleman who looked like to be on the phone, almost as if trying to play mediator, trying to somehow put a stop to this. They're throwing pieces of equipment, I think, that they have dismantled back and forth. One of the scariest things when we saw a firework, perhaps, that was thrown in the encampment, and the big concern was, A, was anybody injured from that? We don't know. So if you're just joining our coverage, we do not know if there have been any injuries. It would not surprise me if there were, just given how violent this quickly became. We've seen pepper spray, we've seen the throwing, the dismantling. We have police specialist Dennis Zine now joining our coverage. Dennis, I want your thoughts on this as a decades-long-time law enforcement officer. Where are officers?
The officers, once they get the call, will muster up. They're not going to send in 2 or 3 or 4 officers. They're going to have to form up in squad formations, have the protective equipment. They're going to come, obviously, from West Bureau. They may request assistance from the LA County Sheriff's Department, the Highway Patrol. UCLA does have a police department. I don't know if they're mustered up, if they're prepared for this particular situation, but it'd be unsafe to send a few number. You've got to send out a number of officers, massive number of officers, to protect the officers as well as to make arrests of what we see happening with this demonstration that's now turned violent. We've seen the tear gas, we've seen the fights, different hand-to-hand weapons. So you can't send in just a few officers. You're going to have to mobilize a number of officers from the UCLA. And the late watch, you normally don't have a lot, but we've got Metro, and they may have to call in officers from home to combat the situation and disperse this crowd and take those individuals that have some weapons into custody. But you're not going to send in just a couple of officers to contain a crowd that is violent, as we see happening at this particular moment.
Yeah, and we also now have Skyfox up overhead, and hopefully we can show some of that as well. And Dennis, we have an example of police moving in on something like this just tonight at Columbia.
Oh my gosh. At
Columbia University, we saw an overwhelming show of force from the New York Police Department moving in to move out protesters who had essentially taken over a building there that seemed to be relatively violence-free and seemed to be effective. This reminds me of a night, which, Dennis, I'm sure you remember. Maybe it was, I don't know, about a decade ago, maybe a little bit less than that, when Occupy LA, which was built in downtown Los Angeles, this encampment city that they had let happen for day after day after day, was finally broken up. I was the reporter that was embedded with the LAPD that night as they moved in around this time, around 11 o'clock at night, for a several-hour-long process of a massive show of force and trying to move people out. And there was some resistance, and it was kind of scary, honestly, to be in the middle of that. But that was a situation where it was on the LAPD's time and place and choosing, and they were in control. Right now, we have a situation where no one has control, and we have agitators who I don't think are really out there necessarily concerned about Israeli policy, who are trying to stir some you-know-what up, and they are in the middle of campus. So now we got the ground shot, and then in the top left corner, we have the aerial shot. And maybe if we take that, it gives you a sense of what's happening here. You see that it's not that many people that are really the troublemakers here. It's a small group. And can you talk about the crowd dynamics, Dennis, of this group, this sort of Antifa agitating group that you see at some of these events that really are not out there for the right reasons?
Exactly. We don't know how many are inside the barricades. We know what we see outside the barricades. And obviously they're coming to disrupt the situation at this late hour after 11 p.m. But what we need to have is sufficient resources to take them into custody. And unlawful disturbance at UCLA, exactly what the police, what the LAPD will do, what the sheriffs will do, will back up what UCLA police wish to do. But they're going to be the primary agency that takes action on this. And what will happen then, they'll assess this crowd. They'll have the air unit if they're not there yet. I hope the 9/11 call went out to start mustering up the officers from West Bureau, and you've got the divisions that will then deploy officers to this particular location. I don't know at this particular time if they got any special metro units standing by. I don't know if they anticipated anything happening, but this is the type of situation which brings in agitators and what we call professional agitators that just want to create problems. They don't care about the cause. It's just to create chaos and create the problems, and that's what you see happening. But the other question is, how many are camped inside the barricade that are there to confront these individuals that want to attack and tear it down? So you've got two opposite sides, and the only way to quell it is to bring in a massive show of force to start making arrests people into custody.
Yeah, we're seeing somebody right in front of our camera there, which we just saw our security officer who is with our team there trying to get these agitators away from us because they were now we're getting word that UCLA police are in fact pulling up. So we look forward to seeing those police officers, as I think that might be more pepper spray that they have. Okay, let's bring in Chelsea Edwards. First and foremost, Chelsea, how are you doing? I know that you just endured some pepper spray.
Yeah, doing okay. Wow, that was painful. We were quite close when that happened, but this is just a really chaotic situation. So you can see on the one side here, pro-Palestinian supporters, protesters, they are standing their ground. They've reassembled this fence that was taken down by these people dressed in black with these masks. They are defending themselves. They've got makeshift shields. We've seen some with 2x4s. We've also seen members from this area over here that have been lobbing the 2x4s into the crowd. Now, I'm looking behind our camera here, behind Elliot. You can see these red and blues start to show up. This is the first that we've seen of actual law enforcement here on the scene. You know, when this all started, it was pretty quiet leading up to all of this. They had some speakers that they had brought in. They were blasting some really distressing noises. There was the sound of a baby crying. We heard the sound of sirens that were on repeatedly, also like an evil laugh that was being blasted toward the other side. But other than that, it was peaceful, other than the noise. So the campus police, they had kind of moved off when this all started, when everybody rushed in to kind of take down these gates, and then everybody was just gone. Then this was just kind of a free-for-all, as you've been watching over the last few minutes here. I mean, we've been seeing these agitators again. They're throwing 2x4s into the crowd. The people who are in the pro-Palestinian side are defending themselves. They look like they are gearing up for a fight. Now, we mentioned earlier in the day, they had a workshop today that was titled Working with Cops, or How to Work with Cops. Those are the people inside the pro-Palestinian side. So it appears that they have been studying or kind of training in some way for exactly this, what we're about to see here. We're seeing the law enforcement starting to come in. Looks like they're forming a formation over there in the back. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on, but we are seeing those lights coming. So it appears we are starting to get a law enforcement presence.
Yeah,
But it's not clear what's going to happen inside. You know, sorry, Marla, what were you saying?
No, I'm just saying it seems like he is putting a speaker there trying to drown you out.
Yeah, he just put it here. They've been doing that. They've been kind of following me around, trying to drown out the sound. That's exactly what it appears happening. We've had people walking around getting in our faces quite a bit. Thank you so much to our security team who has kept us safe tonight. Really unpredictable situation. I mean, you just look at this crowd. They're kind of talking amongst themselves. They seem to be plotting. And then you've got the people on the other side of the fence who are just gearing up. They've got umbrellas you see over there that they're shielding themselves from, but they appear to be ready for whatever is about to happen. Obviously, once law enforcement get involved, this is going to be a different situation. Not sure how they're going to approach this, what their tactics are, or if they were planning on anything like this. I mean, they weren't standing by. They weren't here on campus as this happened. So it's not clear what their response is going to be.
So, Chelsea, can you...
Yeah.
Can you give us some perspective of exactly what's happening? So this basically, there's an outside people that are outside the encampment who are agitators, who are just troublemakers throwing stuff in there, and the actual encampment itself is not these folks. The encampment are the pre-vetted people who are making their position, and they're going back and forth with no law enforcement. This isn't like people are trying to take down the encampment. This is these troublemakers making trouble. Is that what's happening?
You've hit the nail on the head, Alex. So yes. So these people who are here who've been tearing this down, they're not identified as anything. There's one shirt that I've seen that says "Free the Hostages," but they're not identified in any other way. These are not the counter protesters that we saw here over the weekend with the Israeli flags, and they are not the people from inside the encampment. This is a separate group. Not sure who these people are. They're obviously not media friendly. They are not interested in talking to us, so we have not identified who they are, but they do not appear to be involved with any particular group that we've been seeing over the last few days. So what we're seeing now is this third party. They're coming in. They've tore down this barricade. Everybody on the inside of the pro-Palestinian group is now taking arm. They're sort of getting ready to fight. As you can see, they've reestablished that barricade, that metal barricade in between. They're trying to put back the wood that's been separating them from the other side of this campus. They've got their umbrellas ready. They've got some makeshift shields. They've got 2x4s. So no, this has nothing to do with the people who were inside this encampment, nor does it have anything to do with the protesters who we saw out here, the counter-protesters who we saw out here this weekend. This appears to be some sort of a third party who's coming in and causing this trouble. But they obviously had a plan. I mean, they've set up these speakers here. A couple of hours ago, it was right after 10 o'clock that these speakers were set up, and obviously they were getting ready for this exact action.
Yeah, so from our Skyfox view and now our ground camera there, you're seeing EMS and police on scene. We've seen, Chelsea, just so you know, people who seemingly were pepper sprayed like yourself being treated by EMS below, and it looks like they're now taking some people to the hospital, or those are people who are coming in. No, they are exiting the campus. It is a wonder why, how quickly this got out of control, where campus security was, knowing that the strategy changed today by UCLA. The chancellor putting out a relatively stern warning for the encampment, saying, we will move in, you will be disciplined if you do not adhere to our message. We didn't see any of that discipline play out tonight, and as a result, this is sort of this is the result. These agitators coming in right at the top of the hour at 11 p.m. and causing utter chaos, violence. We do have some pictures if you're just joining us, and see what happened at the top of the hour at 11 p.m. When we were coming to Chelsea Live, our crew was pepper sprayed. Fights were breaking out. Those barricades were being thrown. Look at this. Seemingly a firework was thrown across. That lit up. Look at that. I mean, this could really severely injure somebody. So in terms of the number of injuries, we don't know. The pepper spray fights were happening, fists flying. I mean, just, Alex, you say anarchists. This is utter anarchy.
That's what this is.
It really is. And you have to wonder Where are UCLA officials?
Yeah, and we've seen these people. They came out during that Occupy LA thing. They came out when we saw the protests after George Floyd. We've seen them often in the streets of downtown LA after legitimate protests where people exercise their free speech. There is a group of anarchists in Southern California who Dennis Zine referred to as sort of professional agitators who do this sort of thing. And you think about it as we bring back Dennis Zine, that they're clearly knew what they were doing. They're coming there dressed in dark clothes. They're covering their faces. They've got their speakers to try to drown out the media. That this is a very deliberate approach by this group of people who are just trying to create chaos. They're not focused on any policy at all other than creating problems.
Exactly. They're there to cause disruption. They'll engage in fights, as we've seen. They'll entice as much as they can, and they're going to do that until they're pushed away. Now, the folks that are inside the barricades are not coming out. They're not engaging. They've got the umbrellas protecting themselves, but you see that group of people that showed up out of nowhere, and they wanted to attack. They wanted to penetrate and attack, and hopefully the UCLA police will be joined by other law enforcement to make some arrests and quell the situation. Don't let it continue. But again, it's late at night, almost 11:30 at night, and you've got the three forces that have been out there all day. You do have 24-hour coverage, but you don't have the amount of personnel that you would have in the daytime hours. So they've got to muster up those officers and those divisions and get them out there so they can bring this to an end. And it's been a while, but we know the UCLA is there. But again, they don't have enough personnel at this time to engage. You need to have enough personnel so we don't then risk the lives and the injuries to the officers. So this will be a standoff for a period of time, but they'll finally come in and sweep the area and reestablish tranquility. But this is going to continue. But as you said, and I said, and I know how these demonstrations go. I've been around these for over 55 years. These are professional agitators that just want to create havoc and create a problem. While people have a cause, they have an issue, there's some that just want to cause disruption and commit as many violations as they can. And that's what you see happening with those folks that showed up with the speaker and throwing firecrackers, etc., into the folks that are inside the barricade. So this will be a standoff, and then law enforcement will ultimately dismiss them from that area, clear them from the area, and reestablish tranquility. But it's going to be a while till that happens.
When you say a standoff, there are no officers around, Dennis. I don't know if there's one black and white that's still there, and that was campus police. But we had Skyfox overhead, the EMS left, and then two other black and whites left. So the standoff is between the agitators and the pro-Palestinian encampment inhabitants. Is that what you mean? Because I'm not seeing any law enforcement.
Well, they're not going to run in there. You've got an officer that's going to go in there, or the officer and a partner. You need to have sufficient personnel to overcome the resistance. You know, this is already a crowd that wants to confront. They have hand weapons with them, sticks, etc. We know they have firecrackers and other weapons. So hopefully no one has a deadly weapon. But the fact is, you need to have enough resources, and we're not going to risk the lives of those officers combating these individuals. So we know they're already want to be in fights. They already want to agitate. And if the folks come out that are in the barricade and then you'll really have a massive takedown of a situation where you're going to have, people getting hurt. But the officers will not go in there until they have enough resources to go out there and discuss to clear this area and to move them out.
There's more fighting.
You need enough troops to do that.
So, Dennis, do you think that this situation makes it more or less likely that officers move in to break up this encampment?
Oh, no, another firework.
Here comes a potential
Get out of
explosion.
There. Oh, my goodness.
Oof.
Yep.
There's more fights. There's more fights.
Because essentially these people in this encampment are like sitting ducks right now, right? I mean, they are. They are. And there's nobody there to protect them.
Well, they're not.
Well, they could leave.
They're throwing
that's their other choice. They could leave and go back to, but...
But they're there for their cause, and then the people who are agitators coming in to combat them and to have confrontation and to have what we see happening right now, a chaotic situation, and they're throwing either firecrackers or some type of lit items that can connect with wood or paper, and now we could have a fire. I mean, that's very possible to have a fire. But we're going to see them going back and forth. And again, the officers obviously from UCLA are aware of this, but they need enough officers to combat this situation, because some of these people want to fight the officers, and if they want to fight the officers, they have to have resources in order to take them into custody and arrest them for whatever charge they want to charge them with. You just don't send in officers, a few officers. You need to have enough to combat this situation, and that's the time. It's night when it's 11:25. You don't have that many units out there. At daytime, it would have been a lot quick response. But this particular hour, you've got to go to the areas around UCLA and get those officers dispatched.
And of course, these agitators who have done this sort of thing before know that, which is why they chose this as the moment to do this sort of thing. You would think the image that comes to mind that may happen later tonight is potentially hundreds of officers coming together, potentially in some of that riot gear, to try to move in lines.
Like we saw at USC.
Like we saw at USC, like we saw at Columbia tonight, to try to, have the upper hand on these folks that are out there. But in the meantime, these folks that are in this encampment, are in danger of stuff being thrown at them. They're trying to protect themselves and protect this situation. And I, even though we do see some Israeli flags out there, let's not confuse what's happening here with the pro-Israeli demonstrators, although that's not what this is. These are not the people that have been out there making their case against Hamas that we've seen during the daytime, not wearing their mask, waving their Israeli flags.
Oh, no.
These are people that are not involved with that movement at all, and I hope people don't confuse those two.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. These are professional agitators, and they're sent on a mission to cause disruption, and that's what they're doing. And they're getting live TV coverage on different channels, so they're getting their message out. But this message is a very sad message. There's a legitimate cause, and what they're doing is just creating chaos and a hazardous environment for a lot of people.
Yeah, so our ground cameras there, that has Fox 11's Chelsea Edwards behind it, and Elliot Mendoza, the photographer. We thank you for being out there. We thank our security team for keeping you as safe as they possibly can. Chelsea, what are you seeing and what are you hearing?
Well, it's interesting. We had someone come up to us a little while ago and really get in front of the camera trying to disrupt our live shot. And some of these agitators came over to pull him back from our cameras to say, no, we want the press. We want the press. So I think that speaks to what you guys are talking about. This is what they want. This is what they're here for, is to create chaos. And they made that point very clear. Ooh, you can see they're lobbing things over into the pro-Palestinian encampment right now. So, yeah, these are not the people that we saw here over the weekend. These are not the people on the pro-Israeli side. These people are here for press to create chaos, and that is exactly what they're doing. You can hear that music still going. We can see different groups. They're pointing lasers, which seems to indicate that they could be pointing a weapon. Our security team has advised us that we're supposed to take that as if they are pointing a live weapon, with a laser on it, so we're staying far away from those people. But they're doing that to the people who are inside the encampment to scare them. It appears that that's what they're trying to do. But they're different groups. They are some throwing things. We've seen water bottles being thrown in. You saw that firework that just exploded in front of a group of people a couple of moments ago, and just a lot of confusion. We saw those police officers leave. As you mentioned, they're not here. We don't see those lights anymore. And for all intents and purposes, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing these security guards standing on the sidelines and just watching this play out in front of us. Nobody is intervening. Nobody is trying to control any of this. No one is stopping them from throwing anything into the group of encampments. We're just on our own out here, it seems. We saw those red and blue lights a little while ago that were over to the side. Those have all left. And the only security that we're seeing, the law enforcement presence that we're seeing, is over to the side.
911 is hanging up on people.
911 is hanging up on people, apparently, according to a person that just came over. Sir, are you with UCLA?
No, I'm not. I was an alumni of UCLA. I came here and I am just blown away at the lack of disregard for public safety. Yeah, we
What
have
are you
an
trying to do with
emergency
your...
at UCLA.
You're trying to call 911?
Yes, I'm trying to call 911. The emergency is that there's lawlessness going on here. There's people getting hurt. There are people getting injured. And the police officers left their post. They were here. They left. The security has abandoned this encampment, this riot. Okay? You hung up on me. I called earlier, and you hung up on me. So, did you just hung up on me again?
I can hear the frustration in your voice. Are you here with a particular group? Who are you
live
here?
right down the street over here.
You live here?
I live in this area. I live in the UCLA area, and I came down here to see what's going on, and I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I'm looking at people, violence. Look at this. They're throwing things at each other. They're pepper spraying each other. How are they allowed to have weapons on campus? This is unbelievable. This is a complete, total disregard for law, and society has collapsed. That's what I call it. Okay? Society has completely collapsed. It's unbelievable that they're allowing this to happen. Listen, everyone is entitled to their freedom of speech, but this is not right. What's happening here is absolutely not correct. There are people getting injured. There are people throwing things. There are gang members in here throwing gang signs. Come on, this is crazy. And the police come here and they leave. It's unbelievable. It's very sad. Very sad.
What's your name?
My name is Sean.
How long have you lived here, Sean?
I've been here all my life, since 1978, since the revolution. And, we saw what happened then, and look what's happening over here. There are people that are, look at this, look at this.
All right. Oh, is that fire?
Look at this. Look at this.
Is that fire that just...
It's going to be an explosion right now.
Yeah, it's another explosion.
All right.
It's
Okay,
not going to
so
be another firework.
People are going to get hurt.
Yeah, people already have
crazy.
gotten hurt.
I don't care what side, but people are going to get hurt. This is UCLA's responsibility. UCLA is responsible for this, and they need to shut this down now.
Sean, thank you so much for your time. Get to safety. Thank you.
And Chelsea, I think Sean speaks for a lot of people tonight that are watching this and wondering about where are the consequences for these folks that are out there tonight. If you're just joining us at this time, usually Marla would have already said goodnight, LA, but we are staying on the air with you for special live breaking news coverage of a situation at UCLA where agitators have moved in and have begun the process of attacking the encampment of folks that are arguing in favor of the Palestinians who are there and have built their own tent city where they have not allowed a lot of other outsiders in. We have not seen hardly any presence at all from UC campus police, from LAPD, from anyone, as these folks who are ready to fight are there. And this sort of scary situation that we're watching unfold happening right now at UCLA. And Marla, at this point, we don't know how this ends.
Yeah, and this all started, though, with a sort of stance change from UCLA. The chancellor putting out a statement during the 5 p.m. hour, or just before the 5 o'clock hour, as we're seeing another launch of something into the encampment. We've seen these flashes in the encampment. Some have been some fireworks. It's hard to say. The chancellor putting out a statement saying essentially this is an unlawful protest. We will move in. We will discipline you. This was to students and this was to staff and faculty. We saw the campus police putting up those barricades, and you see some of them there. And then, Chelsea in her reporting at 10 o'clock was saying that things were getting a little bit more tense, but we didn't see this obviously coming to this extent. And at the top of the hour, that is when it seemed like that was just the plan all along of these outside agitators to come in and just wreak havoc. And that's when that chaos unfolded. No word yet from, I'm checking UCLA socials, no word yet from UCLA. We saw, 2 or 3 black and whites, campus police cars come in for a little bit. Those cars seem to have just left. We saw one EMS come in and treat a couple of people, and we saw that car depart the campus as well. Sky Fox bringing us a live picture from overhead. You're seeing more of it. And by the way, this is Royce Quad, which we also learned, Alex, this afternoon, that the library and Royce Quad that was going to officially be shut off or closed early at 5 p.m. It all officially closed.
Chelsea, I'm wondering if you can walk us through the progression of this evening. You've been out there, and at what point tonight did you get a sense that something was up and that some problems could start? Was it literally like right around 10:45, or was it something throughout the evening you started to get the sort of spidey sense that something isn't right here?
You know, when the speakers came out, Alex, I can see the boxes on the other side. When the speakers came out, the tone had changed. That was clearly a move of aggression on the part of the people who came in here. They pointed them deliberately at the barricade, at the people inside, and then just started blasting. At first it was music, and, you didn't think much of it. It just seemed like, they were creating some noise, but then it became very distressing. Then those sounds started to turn to this baby crying, and that was on repeat. You just heard the screams and the cries of this baby at full volume. Very distressing sounds. Then it turned to a siren that kept going off repeatedly, and then kind of an evil laugh, and then it would rotate between those three noises. That's when you got the feeling something was going on. I mean, we've not seen that since this encampment rose up on Thursday. That was new. And that's when the mood started to change. The baby crying was really distressing. You could see people visibly shaken by it. It was just at full volume. And I think that's when people started to get antsy. But we didn't see this group here. We didn't see this group of agitators. They all seemed to come in at once, and that happened at around 10:45. Those speakers came up right around 9:30. That's when the music and the sound started to come up. But 10:45 is really when it all happened. Everybody rushed in, and they were organized. They took down these barricades. They were throwing the fences in different places. They were ripping down the plywood, all the things that the people here in this encampment have set up. And just they had a mission, and they were bent on executing it. So, this started earlier today. As you mentioned, they closed the library. That was one of the first things. We saw everybody look down at their phones. All the students who were here earlier in the day looked down, and they got an alert saying that the library was closed. Then at some point around then, that is when we got word that this was declared an unlawful assembly, and that these people would have to leave, whether they are students, whether they are not students, whether they are faculty, whoever they are, they have to leave, either face potential discipline from law enforcement or discipline from the school if they were indeed students or faculty. They could potentially face expulsion or suspension after they went through a due process. So that's when it really started to kind of shift. We had been repeatedly trying to talk to somebody inside throughout the day. We went to all the different entrances all around this encampment and tried each and every one, and we're getting different messages at every one. So it seemed like the internal messaging was changing a bit as the evening went on. After that announcement from the chancellor came out, they seemed to be saying, we will try to get you somebody, and then it turned to, no, there is nobody available, and please leave. So the mood definitely changed. Oh, something's happening over here.
Something is happening.
This looks like
oh no,
somebody
fight,
from
another
inside
fight.
All right.
Okay.
No, this is live.
No, this is live.
Wow.
they're back, but they are not intervening. They have not come down from those steps. We're told that there are some on the other side as well, but they're letting this play out. Law enforcement came. We saw the LAPD officers arrive here 30 minutes ago, but they were only here for a few minutes. They set up their patrol cars at the end of the quad. They kind of established themselves, and then they left. So we've got security here. You know, they're lobbing something else into the crowd. We do have security officers here, but they're standing down. They're not intervening.
Is that campus security?
Yeah, who are those people?
Yes, this appears to be campus security. I mean, there's been a lot of different kinds of security here throughout the day. People in the encampment have their own form of security. They have had their own guards that they have hired. There's also been campus security. We have seen LAPD officers here throughout the day, and there are also third-party security guards as well. It's hard to tell who's who. There's been a lot of presence here today, and it has ramped up over the last day or so. Honestly, I'm not sure who these people are, but they are not getting involved in this. They are just standing at the perimeter, and this is just playing out. Now, the question is there any help inside the encampment? We just saw that firework go off inside. I mean, this is packed in there. Somebody could have easily gotten hurt. Alex is mentioning that could start a fire. We don't know what's happening in there, but we're not sure if there's any medical personnel inside or how they're handling it in there. We cannot get in, and we don't have eyes there. So this is really just a sketchy situation.
And imagine the potential liability on all this if somebody gets seriously injured when we're all watching this happening and nobody's really doing anything about it.
Well, it's true. And, another thing I want to note, when we were walking around this campus earlier and we walked the entire perimeter of the encampment, at the other end of this are the stairs that go down, and there's a small gate that just says fire exit. And Elliot and I noticed that earlier today and said, my goodness, there's a fire. All these people are going to get out through this one tiny exit on these stairs and then pile down these stairs. That's a fire hazard. Another thing that's happened is that they've been installing gates throughout the day. And we also mentioned that. We said, isn't that a fire hazard? Yeah, not sure what this is. Just disruption over on the side.
Yeah, and part of the challenge is just the topography of UCLA is very different than USC, where we were last week, where USC is all flat. There are gates all around it, and everything can be closed off. UCLA is hilly. It is completely open. There are no gates. And it is not easy to close off in any way. People can get to it from a bunch of different directions, and that makes it harder to control something. And what's happening now?
Well, I'm just looking at the Skyfox view, and that's this main picture now. We're seeing all of those, a lot of them anyway, they moved out toward the street. So now the movement is toward the street and running across, and these were some of the main agitators that were throwing things and breaking out in fights a little bit earlier.
I mean, yeah, if I'm them, I get out of there now, because then you can avoid law enforcement, right? I mean, why wait until all the cops get there? But who knows what they're going to do next? Clearly they're not thinking rationally, or else they wouldn't be doing all the stuff that they're doing right now.
Yeah, Chelsea, does that seem to be the case, that all of a sudden most of them just sort of moved out?
It's really hard to tell what's going on because these are different. While this is one group, they appear to also be in separate groups. So we'll have one group that appears to be really ready for a fight. They want to be in this. They want to be fighting. Other groups that are kind of saying, stand down. We're just here to have a presence. And they're not really coordinating with each other, even though this seems like a very coordinated event. So everybody just ran to that back end over there. Not sure what that was about. Now they're coming back in. So it could have been something they were chasing over there. Skyfox probably has a better vantage point than we do from where we're standing, but they're all coming back now. So whatever that was, doesn't look like they're fleeing. They're walking back onto this grassy area.
Yeah, we can see that from our Skyfox vantage point, and now some of them getting closer to our cameras, photographers.
And look at this, these guys holding these sticks.
Plywood.
Is that silly
essentially
string?
Using those plywood or bats, essentially. And now he's just trying to dismantle all the umbrellas.
This you know, punk and criminal just moving around and having his way on the campus of UCLA right now. And interesting that these protesters for the Palestinian cause, and doing so, by the way, with his face on camera, so anybody who may look at this later from law enforcement, they've got some documented evidence of him. Any of these folks who were preparing earlier in the night for a potential battle with police, maybe were not preparing for this. So on a night, Marla, where I thought maybe this encampment was going to be taken down based off of what we're seeing from UCLA, that is not what we're seeing. This is not an organized effort to take down this encampment. This is an effort by these folks to cause problems. So we want to take you another picture. Here we go.
Yeah, so this is our camera from photographer Mike Armijo out there. And obviously you can see one of the injured people who will be taken away by ambulance. So LA Fire, LAFD on scene now. So that is one emergency crew that is there. Unclear what this person's injuries are, but obviously severe enough where he looks like he's in a lot of pain to be taken to a hospital and to be checked out. So LAFD is on scene. Haven't seen any LAPD officers. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, we've seen all sorts of potential for injuries. First off, you know, like Chelsea and many other people were pepper sprayed earlier, which is a very painful experience. We know that people have been involved in fights. We know that these firecrackers have gone off, which have the potential to really injure somebody if they go off near you. And we've seen all sorts of people carrying weapons, attacking people too. So, you know, folks could be injured for all sorts of different things right now. And frankly, Marla, it's kind of interesting that we haven't seen more people injured based off of the behavior that we're seeing out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sense on how many people were injured or are being injured tonight as a result of this. Now we're seeing more of that crowd amass near the encampment. This is night number 6, if you're counting. The breaking news that we were following earlier from the East Coast was Columbia University really clamping down on the protesters that took over an administration hall, and NYPD went in there and made several arrests. 30 to 40 at least people taken into custody on the campus of Columbia University. We saw the coordinated effort by LAPD last week on the campus of USC, where an encampment remains there at that private university. And at UCLA, this has been the scene for 5-6 days now, and again, night number 6 to be exact. And it was just today that the campus administration said we're gonna start having Encampment. And Skyfox, you can see a little bit on the foreground there of people milling about in the encampment. But even with the firecrackers that were thrown in, I mean, that seemed to be almost a surefire bet of how to get injured, and it didn't hit an exact tent. We could see that. It seemed to land on the ground, thank goodness. But we've seen that a couple of times. A lot of hooded sweatshirts, a lot of plywood is being used as a weapon, essentially as a bat tonight. We've seen fist fly. I mean, we've seen it all. And what we haven't seen is any real law enforcement. There was a brief moment in time where a few black and whites from campus police pulled up, and that was it. I mean, it's just been lawlessness. And this is the big picture.
Video from earlier. From
earlier. Okay. So this is not live, the big picture. This is from earlier. Yep, you're seeing the remnants of the firecracker that was thrown. When we lost our light for a little bit, it was just, it was quite something.
And that was around the time that Chelsea and her photographer, Elliot Mendoza, were pepper sprayed. And that's part of the reason for that as well. They're doing such a great job out there in very, very difficult circumstances from professional agitators who do not want to be there, do not want them to be there, documenting all of this. It's interesting how many of them, though, although the pro-Palestinian protesters are wearing masks, many of these, professional agitator types are not. As they go out there. This was video from earlier. You're seeing them using these barricades and, some of them causing problems.
The strategy of what they were doing was hard to make sense of.
Right. This whole thing is hard to make sense of. So our colleague Ed Laskos has just arrived on this scene. Ed, I know you were near the USC campus earlier tonight. Describe what you're seeing on the ground right now.
Well, we are at this point away, about a block away, Dixon Court, right where it comes in. This is where the first responders have been moving in here. LA City Fire, Michael, walk us over here. We've been watching two of the people who are coming out of the area itself. Pepper sprayed, evidently, brought over here to paramedics, brought inside. They were washing out. The one fella came in, his eyes were burning. He was in a bit of agony as we walk over here. So they've been trying to, in a sense, clean out his eyes and calm him down. He's in the back of the unit now. So we've seen about two victims of this chaos over here who've been brought over here to the paramedics who are taking care of the situation. But this is where the first responders have basically been mobilizing. They're coming in with the fire department as well. Again, away from the security forces that are about if you will, on the other side of the plaza, Dixon Court, Dixon Plaza. And this is where we've got some fire trucks over here, some more paramedics, some more units coming in as we walk back over this way. So this entire area now has become a hotbed. First responders are moving in here. They're settling up. A lot of the media off to our right, and down that block, as you look down, Mike will give you a look. That's part of the plaza. That big screen we see down there is where the counter-protesters have set up, showing a lot of the video from the October 7th attack. And on the other side is really, unfortunately, ground zero for this attack that we've been seeing play out here the last hour or so. Again, chaotic in there. People have been coming out here. They're wearing their masks, but they're screaming. They're saying it's crazy in there. They're pepper spraying. So it's a wild scene here. And as we keep hearing over and over, a lot of folks have been walking by, running by, and saying, where is security? Where are the police? And at this point, from our vantage point, all we are seeing are the first responders, the medical first responders coming in here to try to help out.
Ed, since you were just reporting from USC, not on the protest, but we're just across the street right on the USC, can you compare and contrast the scenes of the USC campus and what it looks like from the outside and the UCLA campus right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting point and an interesting comparison. I would say almost like two different worlds. And I'm not trying to be funny saying that, because at USC, the campus this evening was quiet. There was a feeling of really no tension. And here, you come over here, and being here last night before all of this craziness broke out, you could feel the tension in the air. Mikey will give you a look. Again, some more cars, some more activity, the hotbed of activity. But it's an entirely different situation. USC very calm tonight. No sense of any type of activity in terms of protest protest or any kind of tension, and you come over here and you just felt through the last several hours, through midday as this thing was continuing, and then the sort of the ultimatum coming out from the university telling the protesters they had to break up, they had to move, they had to get out of the area. You just felt something was going to blow sooner or later here, and frankly, I'm not surprised, because remember last night around 11:30, 12 o'clock, midnight, we had a group of protesters, counter-protesters, mixing it up again. The campus police had to come in some of their tactical gear and break that up, but nothing like what we've been seeing happening here tonight in terms of the explosiveness and the violence and the both of the crowds, protesters, counter-protesters going at each other. A lot of the folks over there that Mikey's giving you a look at are some of the students who've been running over here, and I say that because you'd actually see them running up some of the side streets, coming over here. They've been hearing that all of this was breaking loose, and they wanted to come and get a first-hand look at it with their cell phones out. But again, a lot of folks are telling them, stay back here where it's safe. Don't go down the next block, past that screen, past some of all those orange cones over there, because that's where it's all breaking loose, and you can see a lot of the activity going on.
Yeah, Skyfox, I know you can't see it, Ed, but Skyfox is over the Royce Quad, and it looks like more objects are being thrown, people running periodically here and there in spurts. You know, Ed, it was, what, 6 days ago, so tomorrow, I believe, marks one day that you were on the USC campus when LAPD moved in, and, you know, 93 people arrested on that night. It was completely not like this, to hit home that point even more, in that it was orderly. There was none of this extreme violence or anarchy by any stretch.
Yes, extreme violence, anarchy, very good adjectives. I think if you look at this, we can see, and from my vantage point, you see a lot of people running. Yeah, they're running out back toward this direction as the pepper spray, and even we're on the other side of the plaza here. You can get a sense of that as well. So we're going in the air, but a lot of folks running this way, trying to get away from all that chaos that's playing out there, unbelievably so.
Yeah, this picture here with this young guy who is obviously pepper sprayed, and they're trying to wash out his eyes. He's in significant pain. There's still no sign of LAPD. It was, and that is your picture. Okay,
can we go back?
Chelsea Edwards. Go ahead.
Is Chelsea ready? Can you talk to us about what you're seeing from your perspective?
Yes, absolutely. So we've relocated from the grassy area up to this hill. It's actually a great vantage point where we can kind of see the lay of the land without being inside the chaos. One of you used the word lawlessness before, and that's the best word that comes to mind. There is nobody intervening here. I mean, we're seeing these agitators dancing to the music as they throw things into this encampment. I'm honestly at a loss for words. I don't think I've ever in my career seen anything quite like this with no interruption. There's nobody coming in to stop this or to help this. And at this point, when you look at this group of agitators, it almost looks like it has turned into a party for them. Again, we're seeing dancing, we're seeing singing, people jumping up and down. They seem to be having a great time. While this is a very dangerous and violent situation. Now, actually, Elliot, I want to see if you look over to our left a little bit, Elliot. disrupt our live shot, but that's really all we're seeing. We're not seeing anything from inside. So it remains to be seen how everybody's doing in there, whether there were any injuries. It's hard to imagine that there weren't, just people were inside there as people were lobbing those water bottles, those 2x4s, those fireworks into that crowd. So you imagine there's got to be some sort of injuries. Now we're seeing, now we're seeing a traffic cone being hit. Actually, one of the agitators just appears to have hit another agitator.
Well, you know, this as we look at a more potential violent clash here, this reminds me, Marla, of there's a theory of law enforcement called the broken window theory, which is essentially, and this is something that Bill Bratton used to talk about a lot when he was running the LAPD, that you don't want to see a broken window on a street because it makes you think that there's no pride in the neighborhood, and you got to take care of the little things. Stop the little things before they become bigger things so that you have control over an area. And UCLA has allowed this to fester, this encampment, which tonight they called illegal, but had not done anything about it. So they have this whole setup of all these people out there, which they have shown nothing to do to control it. And now you have these other people coming in to sort of take advantage of that situation.
They're approaching the encampment now from Skyfox.
And they have allowed this whole thing to happen. And there's an argument for what USC did the first day, which was what we are not going to do this, and to step in and stop it. So Gina Silva has just arrived on the scene. Gina, what are you seeing from your perspective?
Well, we're seeing a lot of chaotic, it's a chaotic scene, as you can see. They're tossing all kinds of different things into the air. We don't know exactly what that is. Leon, you have been watching this for some time.
Yeah.
Describe your reaction to all of this.
It's just a disgrace what's going on here. This isn't America anymore. We don't feel safe to come out. We're just going back literally 80 years. This is literally history repeating itself. It's insane.
How should it have been handled?
Again, look at Austin, Texas. Great government, great way to handle it. Came, National Guard. Thing lasted in 3 days. Everybody in and out. That's it. That's it. That's how it should have been handled. Look what is going on. Where's the police? Where's LAPD? No one's here.
Yeah.
This is a war zone.
That is the question that we keep hearing over and over. We have seen firefighters, paramedics. We saw a man in an ambulance. We don't know exactly the extent of his injuries, but we have not seen any law enforcement yet. And as you can see, this is a very large crowd. What have you guys witnessed? What are you guys okay being on camera?
It's ridiculous what's going on, honestly. Very, very ridiculous and disgusting what's going on. The fact that a college campus will allow something like this to happen. I mean, not letting students go to the library, not letting them get to their class. Ridiculous.
UCLA, get ready for all the disputes.
I mean, if my kid went to this college and he wasn't able to attend his classes, you better believe I would be disputing whatever charge I have for admission.
Tonight, were you here when the disruptors came in? Because it was at point, Chelsea, one of our reporters, was here. It was peaceful. Then we saw a group of people coming in and throwing fireworks, all kinds of different things, and that started this insanity.
Listen, right now this is the last day of Passover, so it is meant to be heated at this time, I guess. When it was their Ramadan, we didn't do anything to them, and then this is what's going on in our Passover. So this, again, we have to make a stop. We're the Jewish people. We never lay down. I'm sorry. We will exist on this earth for the rest of eternity. And whoever doesn't like it, tough luck. Sorry.
All right, thank you for speaking with us. Did you come in with the group that came in to fight with the protesters?
No.
No?
I'm a normal citizen just looking and seeing exactly what's going on. And again, all I could say is that I'm ashamed. And I'm ashamed to live in this city.
What does this have to do with Passover?
Look at this crowd. I have no idea, Alex.
Okay.
As you can see, the crowd is large, and when we parked, we saw more people arriving. I think, they know that there's something going on here at UCLA, and so obviously they are coming to check it out, perhaps even be a part of the problem. You just never know. But we have seen a lot of projectiles into the air here. We've been lucky enough, Poor Chelsea, she got hit by pepper spray. That has not happened to us. We just arrived. But again, we did see paramedics. There was a man inside an ambulance. We don't know the extent of his injuries. We have not seen law enforcement here. Hello. Would you care to speak with us? No?
Now, where are you from?
Fox 11. What's your reaction, sir? I'll hold it for you.
Okay, thank you very much. My wife is an alumnus of UCLA, and we came to show our support for, just the hostages that are still being held, which 5 are U.S. citizens. I can't really wrap my head around supporting, Hamas and an organization that holds 5 U.S. hostages in addition to children and families and elderly. I look around and I'm really disappointed in our education system, to be honest. I mean,
how should it have been handled? I asked that question to someone else, and they mentioned Texas. Texas immediately took over and got rid of all of the protesters.
Absolutely. So I'm an attorney myself, and the only reason I bring it is, we took con law, right? So the First Amendment is the most important thing in the United States. So I love free speech, and I recognize and I support anyone's right to say anything horrific they want about me or my people in that sense, right? We have to respect that, and that's a part of the First Amendment. Now, it's a whole nother thing to encamp a university, which, let's be honest, this is the first graduation these people may have had since middle school that's being stolen from them. I mean, it's very disappointing, right?
minutes ago, UCLA did request help from LAPD. So we're hoping to be able to see some of that enforcement come onto this campus because it is painfully needed. It's hard to argue when you're hearing with the folks on the ground talking to our reporters tonight, saying that this is unacceptable. This is a disgrace. It truly is.
Somebody took out a taser?
I heard the noise.
I'm hearing another taser. We saw that happen yesterday on the campus as well. Somebody was tased. We've seen a lot of pepper spraying. Skyfox sort of really helping paint this picture. The encampment now, it seems like, Alex, they put the perimeter out a little further.
Yeah, trying to guard that perimeter. And frankly, for everybody's safety, let's hope they're able to keep that perimeter. And keep some distance, because if that thing falls and these agitators make their way in there, we could have real problems tonight. And right now, these demonstrators are essentially on their own, because they have not gotten any help from any sort of law enforcement, or even their so-called security officers seem to be standing on the side. So them holding that barrier up seems to be their only protection at this point. And let's hope for their sake that they're able to keep it, and we don't see anything worse. But the chances of someone being seriously injured tonight are a real possibility.
That probably already happened, in fact, because there has been that much violence and chaos and anarchy underway. We have three crews. We have Gina Silva on the ground, Ed Lascos, Chelsea Edwards. Chelsea was assigned to this story earlier today. We were coming on live with her at 11 o'clock when I opened the show to get the latest from the scene, and that is when our crew was pepper sprayed. Let's check back in with Chelsea Edwards, who has since recovered. We have a security team out with our crew as well. We should note that. Chelsea, what are you seeing?
Yeah, well, all right, so we're still back on this vantage point that we had earlier, and we've noticed, as you mentioned, that perimeter has been pushed back a little bit. That just happened in the last few moments. What that also did was block off one of the exits to this quad area. So when you go to the one direction where everybody can leave, that's kind of where people have been coming in and out. But where the stairs were a moment ago, that's where security officers were kind of standing by, and now that's blocked that exit. Seeing a lot of movement in the crowd there. It looks like in the middle of the perimeter. Not clear what's going on. We see those umbrellas moving. We see them pulling those fences back. Now, earlier when this happened, when we saw this kind of movement, people started picking up those barricades and throwing them. But this is a different situation. We have a lot more people now than we did at 11 o'clock. You've got group mentality here. This is where it gets really scary, because you just don't know what's coming at you from what direction. So now it appears that the people who are behind the fence are actually pushing it out themselves, if I'm getting this right from what I'm seeing. They're actually pushing it out and then locking these fences in place, possibly to give them more room so that they have more room in the back. That is what it appears to be. This doesn't look like the people on this side, the agitators, are pulling it out. This looks like they are pushing it back to give themselves more room. Actually, yeah, Elliot, look to our left, so we can see this area that used to be an exit. Now they're assembling, they're kind of leapfrogging each other in order to get this perimeter a little bit wider to give them more room. So they're obviously organized on that side. As we reported earlier, they had a workshop today that was how to deal with cops. So they were anticipating something. I can't imagine they were anticipating anything like what we've seen tonight, but there is a lot of organization on that side of the encampment. They are highly organized. They've had events all day. So you would imagine that they know what they're doing. They've obviously talked about this, and they've developed whatever the strategy is. It appears that they're just trying to widen their own area. And if we look to the right, it looks like these agitators are kind of backing off. This is really fascinating to watch. To our left here, we're seeing them pull more of these gates forward. We're seeing them move their umbrellas forward even more. So as they're moving the barricade, they're also moving their protection system, which at this point is just these umbrellas and these pieces of plywood, but they're using what they have to their advantage. And obviously in this coordinated coordinated effort trying to gain a little bit more traction here. There are still no officers on the ground. I mean, we've been watching this unfold for more than an hour now. It is astonishing to see this level of lawlessness that is just unmanned. There's just nobody here to break this up. This is what we're seeing right now is obviously a coordinated effort from the people on the pro-Palestinian side who were in the encampment to try to push back against these agitators who pounced on them earlier. So this is just unfolding as it's unfolding with these people at the helm. There is nobody here to intervene. There is nobody here to stop this. We're seeing more water being thrown from some of these agitators over onto this encampment there. That person who I think we're on right now has another 2x4 that he's been swinging around. I can smell and taste the pepper spray again. Oh, where is that coming from? Everybody around us is coughing. Not sure which direction that's coming from.
You need to move, Chelsea.
There's pepper spray
feel free to get out of there because we've got enough. Yeah, take it.
Burning from the first time, but yeah, I mean it's just chaos. I mean you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know what is happening from anywhere. Thank you so much. Our security team is carrying Tums, which can help with your throat. Your pepper spray. Apparently, I didn't know that until today. This is just wild. No intervention from police whatsoever at this point.
Yeah. And no word so far from UCLA Chancellor Gene Block. Has not put out any sort of statement on social media. UCLA, the school itself, has not put out any word. We haven't seen any sight of any of the campus leadership going down there to try to take control. They have been completely silent as this happens on their campus. We do understand about a half hour ago they called in, finally, help from the LAPD. We have to assume the LAPD is now in the process of trying to gather as many officers as they can at this late hour, now at 12:18 in the morning, to try to move in there and potentially show a show of force. But it's not clear when that would be. We have not seen any indication from the air that those officers are nearby, Marla.
Yeah, so it was 7 hours ago, Alex, to your point, that we last heard from the UCLA Chancellor, as we now just take our Skyfox shot full here, and in that barricade, that perimeter gets bigger and bigger. Gene Block, the UCLA Chancellor, saying campus activism should never make our community members feel bullied, threatened, and afraid. Please read my message to students, staff, faculty, and parents regarding the demonstrations in Royce Quad. It is a lengthy message that was released just before 5 p.m. We had this for you at on the Fox 11 News at 5 o'clock earlier, in which the bottom line message from UCLA was there will be disciplinary action. This is now an unlawful protest. Disciplinary action will be taken. As we're seeing, it looks to be cones that are being thrown into the encampment now. There's another one.
Well, we see one unlawful protest and double down on it, because this is a really unlawful protest that we're looking at here, an event that has nothing to do with the First Amendment rights that our founding fathers fought so hard to ensure in our Constitution, but has everything to do with violence and a complete lack of respect, frankly, for authority. Or even for human life. Yeah, for humanity, for your fellow human. This has been underway for almost 90 minutes straight without any security, without any law enforcement. Still waiting for somebody from UCLA to step up and to bring an end, at least attempt to.
make their way, move into the encampment itself. You probably have a better look than I at that.
Yeah, we have Skyfox overhead right now, Ed, and it is just fighting. We've seen a lot of those metal bars being used as bats. We've seen plywood being used as bats tonight, sticks essentially, but thick ones. The cones, the construction cones being thrown. Fists flying, firecrackers have been thrown. I mean, we really have seen it all. What we haven't seen, I'll repeat myself, but it's worth repeating, we haven't seen law enforcement. So to your point, Ed, that one black and white, the campus police vehicle that is parked out front, that has been parked out front for the duration of the night. So I think that one was just sort of already there. Gina Silva is on the ground as well. Gina, what are you seeing from your vantage point?
Well, we just saw a lot of, just so many crowds here throwing things at the protesters. Of course, you saw the protesters themselves moving the barricades even more to this side where the agitators are also tossing things. You've been here for quite some time. What's your name?
Jaquise.
Tell me a little bit about... Whoa!
Oh, my God! Holy shit!
We apologize for the language. Obviously, this is a very tense situation. Gina, take it away.
Well,
try not to curse, please.
Okay, my bad. When I first got here, it was the crowd was much smaller. You could you could go into that building right in front of us with no problem, walk around. The longer I got here, every single day, the crowd kept growing and getting more aggressive. It's just really sad to see like my community being like this and just throwing stuff and all this violence. It's not normal, and we're witnessing history.
When we first got here, we spoke with someone who said they witnessed the crowd coming in, and they were carrying an Israeli flag, and they started throwing things at the protesters. Is that what you witnessed as well?
Yeah, I witnessed, like as we're witnessing right now, people grabbing the fence and throwing them and ripping all of them apart, and a little scuffles back, and then people throwing punches as we see right now, people throwing cones, fire extinguishers. It's just grown really aggressive.
And that's the thing about the smoke that you see. Even if it's not directed at you, you can still get overcome by that because it is so strong, Alex, Marla.
It's meant to put out fire, so
strong.
I mean, it's really bad. It's just sad. It's like this is so violent, and we're in the middle of Westwood. Like, this is a college campus where students are going, and it's just insane. This is just I've never seen this before in my life. Never expected this to happen.
No, absolutely not. And as you can see, there are so many people who just came out here to watch this. There are crowds that are standing on the side, and they are just staring at this, watching history unfold here at UCLA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's getting more and more violent. It looks like they're literally infiltrating.
Okay, there's a fight.
Yep.
Trying to get their way.
Get through.
Yeah.
And again, I don't see any law enforcement here.
I don't know where there's a lot of cops outside, but no one's coming in to break this up.
Yeah, it's interesting that our friends at the Daily Bruin, of course, the campus newspaper, tweeting out, one of their editors tweeting out, I called UCPD, who is the law enforcement agency in charge, again, not LAPD, UCPD, for a statement on the ongoing violence in Dixon Court. Their response, no, absolutely not. They hung up before I could ask another question. In a statement delivered by text message, Daily Bruin reporting a UC Divest coalition at UCLA, who's part of this group in the encampment, said the violence this evening was one-sided and described the university's lack of action to protect student safety as hypocritical and abhorrent. That's a response from people that are inside that encampment right now who feel like they are under attack, and for good reason.
Yeah, there is no action to protect student safety at this point. There hasn't been. UCLA apparently calling in for help from LAPD. That request needed to happen, and we got word that that did happen probably 45 minutes ago, but we still haven't seen that actually play out. We haven't seen law enforcement come onto the campus. We have seen more and more people come, whether they are there to just witness this, as Gina said, to witness history, or to become part of the problem and the agitators who have literally taken over Royce Quad. Sky Fox bringing you the most most telling live images. And we've seen a lot of this, of tearing down the barricade, moving it. Those pop-up tents have made their way closer onto the lawn there, so the perimeter has gotten bigger. It's a really wild scene. I'm not sure how else to describe it. A dangerous one. The firecrackers, projectiles being thrown, pepper sprayed, individuals threw out a lot of masks. I've seen some people out there with goggles on because clearly they got word that there would be pepper spray, and they've got goggles on to protect their eyes. And still, you know, I do give some credit to the UCLA Bruin, the paper there, who's trying to do its part and report the news and can't get any answers from the officials at the University of California, Los Angeles. And that gentleman who Gina was talking to, this is Westwood. We're in the, I mean,
they're chanting, get a job, get a job.
I say because I was talking to like someone on the inside. They were saying that basically like the Israeli side is white supremacy for some reason. Oh my God, bro, he just smashed her fingers. Oh my God. Oh my God, he just smashed her fingers. Oh my God. He smashed her finger with a piece of wood. Bro, this dude just hit her finger. And I also want to shout out my community. Who smashed whose? Bro, this guy with the wood like smashed this girl's finger. Yes, on our side, the girl was like this and smashed her fingers. No way. Yes.
Oh my goodness. It's extremely violent.
This crowd is extremely violent.
A tennis racket?
Can't say anything.
Okay, all right. Thanks to Gina Silva. And as we get later, we're now approaching.
Shame on UCLA. Mr. Jim Cross at the gate.
As we're now approaching 12:30 in the morning, we thank you for being with us. Alex Michelson, Marla Tejas. We've got complete team coverage. Gina Silva, Ed Lascos, Chelsea Edwards, all joining us live on the campus of UCLA. We are witnessing, Marla, something I've never seen before, never thought I would see on the campus of this great university, the most applied to university in the country, one of the top-ranking public schools in the world. The University of Southern California looks more like a scene out of V for Vendetta, just like a moment of complete anarchy, folks that are enjoying the process of creating chaos on campus, and a complete abandonment of any sort of leadership from both the university officials and from the campus police, who are completely AWOL as we now move into more than an hour and a half of this happening. The entire world is watching, yet they seem to be doing nothing at this point.
It was today. Well, now, let me correct myself. It was yesterday, since we've moved into Wednesday. It was Tuesday that UCLA changed its strategy and said that this is an unlawful protest. We will change our tune, and we will start having disciplinary action if you do not leave the encampment. We didn't see any of that play out. And then this was clearly a staged protest of these agitators who came in at 11 o'clock. It was straight up at 11 o'clock that they descended upon Royce Quad that had been shut down earlier because of the encampment. And these fights have broken out. The barricades have been moved, as our camera is showing you this. And it's hard to make sense of, you know, which side this person's on, what they're doing, what their purpose is. We've seen a lot of people get injured on live television. We're still waiting, and it looks like they're trying to connect this barrier here.
Hey, shut up, Bevball, shut up.
This is the camera, I believe, of Elliot Mendoza. Chelsea Edwards, you are our first reporter on scene. In fact, you were out there all afternoon. Did you anticipate anything like this happening?
Certainly not. I mean, there was no indication earlier today that anything like this would happen. I mean, it truly was, for the most part, peaceful from earlier this afternoon all throughout the evening, all until after 10 o'clock. It was around 9:30 when these speakers came out. Someone had set up these speakers and just started playing first music and then these really disturbing, really unsettling sounds of baby wailing at full blast. It was like an evil laugh, kind of a clown laugh that started playing over and over, and then sirens, and they kept playing those three sounds on repeat. And then right at 11 o'clock, as you mentioned, that is when chaos, it just evolved into chaos. Now, we're standing, our vantage point is a little different here. We're kind of on a hill, so we can see now into this encampment because those the plywood has all been moved from where it originally was, where it was blocking our camera. Okay, hold on, we've got somebody here. Let's see if this is going to be... All right. So we can see more. Earlier, this was all blocked off. Now, I just had a security guard who is known to us, to Fox 11, who ran up. I have not confirmed this information, but I do think it's interesting. He said that he was able to just walk in. Now, there's obviously nobody manning these gates. There are entry points now in which anybody can get in. He said he walked in and he saw what he said is a very sophisticated operation, that they are making makeshift tear gas inside this encampment. It looks like they are preparing to hold their ground. He said there's medical equipment, they've got supplies in there, and we're seeing a lot of that organization from up on this hill. We're seeing them move some of these bigger kind of triage-looking tents over to the front. Not sure what that is, or if that is the medical, the medical supplies that he's talking about, that they're getting ready to treat people in those white tents. But they've made a distinct effort to move those from the back to the front. And in fact, I'm not sure if Elliot can see from his vantage point, but to our left, we're seeing another one of those 4-post umbrellas being moved by a group of people from the back of the encampment to the front of the encampment. We've also seen a lot of spray coming out. At first, we thought it was possibly a fire extinguisher that people were spraying into the crowd, but the security guard that we spoke to said that is makeshift tear gas. They're making it themselves on that side of the encampment. We do not have that confirmed. We don't know what that substance is, but we've seen a lot of spray. Oh, we're seeing it again right over there, coming from inside the encampment into out. Now, on this side of the encampment, this is where the pepper spray, the bear spray has been, it's been coming out quite often. We were here in a very peaceful part of this area, or an area that's been peaceful for the most part so far, and we just smelled it again. Somebody sprayed it within this vicinity. So this isn't just... this isn't just happening on the quad where these agitators are. This is kind of all around the quad where people are just standing as well. There are people just trying to rile up the crowd. We've seen a couple of them come into our section and into sections on the side of the hill where people have now gathered to watch all of this unfold. And they're really just getting in people's faces. They are trying to rile people up. They are trying to cause problems. They've got their faces covered, and then they kind of walk away, and then we see them in the crowd. We're seeing one person there trying to kick down the encampment. Oh, they're pushing the plywood now out against this person. I mean, just
and it looks like a tennis racket. A tennis racket.
Seeing a tennis racket, a lot of those 2x4s again, and then the crowd just moving in. So again, nobody here to break this up. This is this is the people governing themselves.
And Gina Silva,
it is wild.
Yeah, Chelsea, thank you so much. We have a picture though with Gina now, and it looks like she was trying to talk to these private security.
This is campus security.
Oh, it's campus security.
I was trying to get an interview. This is all campus security. You can see all of them. They're watching all of the activity. From what I understand, excuse me, it's hard to breathe here. From what I understand, they're trying to make sure that they don't go anywhere else. They stay here. I have been told that they called the LAPD. They called police a while ago, but we have not seen anyone yet. So again, you can see the protesters here trying to talk to the to security, and she's calling them cowards because nothing's going on. But they really, they've called law enforcement, and so far they're waiting for law enforcement to show up.
So are they like a private security unit, not the UC police, right?
They are not armed, and they are a. Are you a private security? Are you? Excuse me. Are you a private security? It says
private security.
Apex Security Group. So it is a private security.
I guess what are you paying them for if this is happening and they just are standing there? I don't know.
It sounds like Gina got...
Gina, take your time because this can be painful and hard. I remember covering a Trump rally that escalated into chaos in Arizona and being hit by pepper spray and having some of these gases when you're out as a reporter, and it is very, very painful. And you really can't do anything but you know, try to get away from that. So I hope Gina is okay.
Yeah, and you know, while we bring you these live pictures from the sky and from the ground, and we await any sort of a reaction or response from UCLA, the chancellor, any official there, I'm curious about, you know, the governor as well.
Yep. Where is Governor Newsom? I've just reached out through all my contacts to the governor's office and haven't heard. I don't know if they're all asleep. It is 12:38. The governor, of course, lives in Sacramento, so it's not easy to just drive down there. But he is on the Board of Regents. He is somebody who has a role to play in the UC system, an important role. And where is he? He's been pretty quiet on a lot of what's been happening at the different UC campuses. We know when the governor wants to say something and get a message out, he can be very aggressive in doing so. And he has not been all that vocal in the last few days on this issue of what we are seeing on campuses. And it would be great to hear from him. I've extended an invite for him to call in or to say some sort of statement, but I don't know what's going on with his office right now.
Yeah, I mean, his last tweet today was 14 hours ago, and it was something that we reported earlier about the fact that our population in California is growing. It grew by 1.7%. That was the stat that was released earlier. That was obviously after a decline in the population here in California, but that is beside the point, and this has been underway since 11 p.m. That was on Tuesday. Now we're into Wednesday, and certainly there should be some statement from a public official at this point. Somebody should be on campus as we're seeing violence, we're seeing anarchy. These live pictures, our job is to tell you what's happening. You can see for yourself just the fights that are breaking out. You can't make sense of who's on what side. This isn't anymore about the issue that really started on the campus of USC when the valedictorian was told that they couldn't speak, being titled pro-Palestinian. And so then that set off a slew of protests on USC, and then that bled over to other campuses, and now we're seeing this. This is night number 6, or I guess this would be day 7 of protests here at UCLA. And here we are, well past midnight on Wednesday morning, and the quad looks destroyed.
It is a shameful night in the history of the University of California, Los Angeles, and a shameful night in the history of Los Angeles, one that we will remember probably for years, and not one that we were necessarily.
won't stand for this anymore. This is an unlawful protest. Disciplinary action will be taken. And then fast forward to 11 p.m. tonight when Goodnight LA starts each weeknight. And I was coming on the air from a handoff from Alex and Christine, and about to toss to what I thought was just an update on the night's events from Chelsea Edwards, and that is when this chaos erupted. Firecrackers were thrown, the barricades started to be thrown around, projectiles thrown, and now we are almost 2 hours into this mess, and we have not seen law enforcement show up. I will say that at one point there were just a couple of black and whites, and that was UC police, and they drove off. And we saw an EMS. That was the first emergency response. We took somebody away. And then we saw, of course, LAFD, first responders coming in to help the pepper sprayed individuals and others who were hurt in the fighting. And in the meantime, you know, we do get word that UCLA has requested the help of LAPD, and we still haven't seen the LAPD officers. So to your point, Alex, maybe it would have been handled differently if this was LAPD jurisdiction, but it's not. And this is what we have to reckon with tonight, or this morning.
This morning, when it seems like a lot of people have been caught off guard by what is happening here, although this encampment itself, earlier today, UCLA deemed to be unsafe and frankly illegal, and vowed to break it up. And so we're seeing, it looks like, some breaks in the perimeter wall potentially of this encampment. Tough to tell exactly what is happening there from our various perspectives. Maybe we can get some of our reporters back into this. I don't know who's standing by and ready to go. Maybe is Ed Lascos listening? Are you able to hear us?
I've got you. We're on just the far side here, and we're watching a lot of the, I would think, counter-protesters. As Mike will give you a shot here in a moment. They're running out, running away from the encampment. You hear a lot of screaming. Again, the only overhead activity, a couple of media helicopters. No sign at all of an LAPD airship. I did see that earlier, good 45 minutes ago or so. It made a few orbits, a few circles, and then it's left. No sign of any type of law enforcement. And again, just a lot of the protesters with their mask on running back this way. At times you'll see some others who have their face covered and their eyes watering, saying, yeah, they got hit with some of the mace, the bear spray. I'm going to get out of this way, Mikey, because I got some people behind me without security, and I don't want to get cracked in the back of the head. But anyway, it's very dangerous out here. Certainly lawlessness, and that's what everybody's been saying. Where is law enforcement? Where is campus police? You saw a little while ago we had the private security. I'm laughing because they're just standing on steps. I saw them too a little while ago, standing and watching. Well, everybody's fighting, throwing projectiles, being injured. You've got to wonder, Marla, Alex, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, well, we are just getting a first word, a statement from UCLA. This is from the Vice Chancellor for UCLA Strategic Communications, Mary Asako, sends this comment, quote, "Horrific acts of violence occurred at the encampment tonight, and we immediately called law enforcement for mutual aid support. The fire department and medical personnel are on the scene. We are sickened by this senseless violence, and it must end." That quote from the Vice Chancellor for UCLA Strategic Communications.
You have to wonder when you hear that, it must end. You'd say that to these protesters, they'd laugh in your face, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it must end, but what are we going to do to encourage it to end? And so far, that has been nothing. The response from UCLA has essentially been, let's let everybody fight it out and see what happens. That has been essentially what their lack of action.
she's going to wake up to if she's not being woken up to messages that explain what's underway in the city of Los Angeles.
Don't you think you'd want somebody to wake you up if
Yes.
this sort of thing was happening? You talk about, remember that Hillary Clinton ad about the 3 a.m. phone call? If you're Governor Newsom or Mayor Bass or one of these folks in one of those jobs, or the interim chief of the LAPD, Dominic Choi, one of these folks, I would want this to be something where I'd be pretty mad at my staff if they didn't wake me up in the middle of this sort of thing, but that's a personal preference. Chelsea Edwards, who has been our reporter on this from the beginning, let's check in back with her. Chelsea, what are you seeing? We feel for you dealing with pepper spray and everything else tonight.
Listen, we can taste it, we can feel it, we can smell it. I mean, my skin, my colleagues' skin are secure. Their encampment over there, and all of that just happened in an instant, and there was really nobody else here for quite some time, including law enforcement. But you know, there weren't looky-loos, there weren't bystanders. Now we look all around us, 360, every single place where you can get a vantage point. We are seeing people who are holding up their phones, and a lot of these people, I've looked behind their phones, they're broadcasting live, which means this is being seen all over the world, and that means that people are coming here from all over the place. So it's hard to tell who everybody is with. It's hard to tell if the people inside are, you know, just taking a part in this in terms of looking at it, if people are really trying to get involved in the chaos, if they're trying to start problems, and what they're doing. It's just hard to tell at this point. We're seeing someone getting medical attention here. A lot of people got pepper sprayed in the last few moments here, and that is strong. When it hits your skin, oh, it just burns. You can taste it, you can smell it, you just feel your skin on fire. So we've seen a lot of people running out, just screaming, wiping their eyes, trying to douse water, you know, putting water on their face. But it's just not clear what's happening. This is kind of a spectator event now, in addition to being a very dangerous and violent situation. I've just never seen anything quite like it. I mean, people, again, who are out here, I have seen a couple of people holding drinks, like they're watching this as a spectator event, watching all of this happen, and there's no law enforcement here. It's just playing out as it's playing out. You can see the main crowd is kind of petered out a little bit. Not sure if these are the same people who started this, the agitators who are in the middle right now, still throwing things into the encampment, or if these are different people. We did notice that a new group came in, one person with a yellow flag. When that person came in, it appeared to get a little bit more violent. That's when people seem to get a lot more riled up. So not sure if that was a different group or whether this is all the same group. It's really hard to tell. Nobody's really wearing any identifying markers other than the people who came in initially were wearing black head to toe. A lot of them had face masks that covered their faces, either black or white, so you couldn't tell who they were. And that was really it. But now we're kind of seeing a lot of everything. And again, the spectator aspect is just really interesting to watch. We're seeing people getting hurt here on live television, and people are just filming with their phones, drinks in hand. So I just don't know how to describe it.
In some ways, people have compared what's happening with this to the 1960s and the protests of the Vietnam War. But of course, back then they didn't have smartphones, so this is being broadcast and seen in such a different way. So seconds, literally seconds after I made that comment that why can't somebody wake up the mayor of Los Angeles or the governor, we did get a statement from the mayor's office, Mayor Karen Bass's office, Zach Seidel, her deputy mayor in charge of communications, saying that the mayor has spoken to Chancellor Block and Chief Dominic Choi, the interim chief of the LAPD. Zach says that the LAPD is responding immediately to Chancellor Block's request for support on campus. We have not seen evidence of that LAPD response. We are now almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours into this whole thing. That is our first indication that Mayor Bass, who is in Washington right now, is up where it is almost 4 o'clock in the morning and coordinating this from there, and that this is that 3 a.m. phone call that we talked about, at least from her. We have not heard from the office of the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who I believe is in Sacramento. We want to go back now to Dennis Zine, who has been a member of the LA City Council, so he understands how the city government works, but also a longtime member of the LAPD and understands how law enforcement works. And Dennis, from your knowledge of both, can you talk about what you understand to be most likely happening behind the scenes right now?
What is happening now, they are mustering up units throughout probably the city of Los Angeles, not only West Bureau. There's 21 police divisions, 21 patrol divisions, and they've got to assemble officers from those divisions. They'll start with West Bureau, which is the west part of the city, and they'll get those officers at a location. They'll assemble them. Hopefully they'll have all their weapons and the non-lethal and the helmets, et cetera, the vests, and they'll muster them up, and they'll do a deployment. Again, they're going to follow direction of the UCLA police. They're the primary agency involved. They're under the state of California. They're regular police officers. LAPD will follow their command. They're the primary responsibility. LAPD will back them up, whatever directions they give. UCLA may be calling their officers in from home because of the situation that we've been watching for the last couple of hours. They'll disperse the crowd. A lot of those people will just scatter. If they make arrests, if they're assaulted, whatever the case may be, but they'll quell this disturbance that we've seen, which, as you said, it reminds me of the protest during the Vietnam era. With my over 55 years of LAPD, I've been involved in many of those situations. This is exactly what happens. But the concern is that everybody keeps saying the police aren't there, the police aren't there. LAPD is not the primary responsibility to respond. It's UCLA. They give the call. Then LAPD has to get all those units that are on patrol, handling calls, the radio calls, 911 calls, the other calls, booking prisoners, etc. Then they have to get those folks at a location close to the campus, and then they're going to make sure that they're deployed, and then they will assemble a game plan to then go in. Are they going to make arrests? Do they have to bring jail buses? That will all be determined before they enter the campus. So people are wondering, why aren't they there? Why aren't they dismissing these people, distributing throughout the area? There's a matter of practicality. You've got to get them there. You've got to get them deployed to that location, and they've got to leave the particular assignments that they're on, handling radio calls throughout the city of Los Angeles, all the 911 calls. So that's the problem. If it goes on attack alert, they'll bring officers from all over, all bureaus, all 4 bureaus. So there's a procedure involved. It doesn't happen quick, but as we see, it's been a long time in coming, and we've seen a lot of hostility, a lot of combativeness. We've seen a lot of the activity that's illegal. In a dispersal, they give a dispersal order, and anyone remains, then they'll be arrested. But the dispersal order, as soon as they see the uniformed officers show up, many of them will scatter, get to their cars, and flee. Those, the hardcore, will be arrested if they decide not to leave and challenge the police. That's going to be the call. But that may happen at 1:30 or 2 o'clock this morning, because it doesn't look like this crowd is getting tired. It doesn't look like they want to leave. But that's the procedure that we have to follow. Again, I put the onus on the UCLA Police Department, and we know a few officers, a few cars were there initially, then they left. I don't know how they could turn their back on a situation as we've seen happening, unfolding here on Fox 11 this evening. But it's the procedure we have to follow. Again, our concern is we get the crowd moved out, but at the same time, we've got to protect the officers from getting injured.
Dennis, Marlotte is here. Fully understand the procedure that you just outlined for us. How long would that take? Because as far as we understand, Chancellor Block issued the call for LAPD probably about an hour ago. So how long does it take on average to assemble and do all of what you just said? Which I understand it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but how long can we expect?
Well, when you look at the number of officers deployed through the West Bureau, West LA, Pacific, et cetera, Wilshire, Hollywood, when you look at the number of officers deployed, they still have to have officers handle the calls in those particular areas. So maybe they can send two or three cars, maybe 4 cars. Depends what they have deployed this evening. They work 12-hour shifts. They're going to work 12-hour days. They started, and they'll be working a 12-hour shift. So it depends what the deployment is. If they go to the Valley Bureau, they're going to be traveling from the valley over. Fortunately, traffic is very light right now. They don't have to hassle with the traffic flow. But the fact of the matter is they still have a responsibility to provide police service throughout the city. They can't say every black and white in the unit in the city respond. They still have to maintain the patrols within the areas of the city and send whatever they can afford to send. And then Metropolitan Division, which services the entire city, they may be calling them from home to respond. So they've been working these 12-hour shifts. Again, we've had the USC, we've got the UCLA, we've got these situations happening. And the department has been basically in a mobilization where everyone's required to wear uniform, including detectives. But it does take some time to get them mustered up to respond to this, especially a situation we've got so many. And as soon as they see the officers come in, many of those folks will scatter. They will leave. And the hardcore want to stay, then they'll be arrested.
Yeah, well, we look forward to seeing law enforcement show up whenever they do. We're seeing the 2x4s being thrown into the encampment. We've seen a lot of that tonight. We've seen a lot of pepper spray. We're now hearing from the mayor, who says that she has been in touch with Gene Block. He is the UCLA chancellor. We've gotten a statement from UCLA, from the vice chancellor of strategic communications, Mary Osaka. I believe we have that statement to throw up so you can see it at home. It says horrific acts of violence occurred at the encampment tonight, and we immediately called law enforcement for mutual aid support. The fire department and medical personnel are on the scene. We are sickened by this senseless violence, and it must end. So, Alex, you've been in touch with the mayor's office, giving us that statement, or putting out that statement for the general public as a whole. We're still waiting to hear from the governor. We're waiting to hear from Gene Block himself as just more of this anarchy unfolds at the campus that he was hired and is paid a lot of money to oversee.
But if you look at how this is unfolded, when they started setting up the camp, that's when they should have said, you're not going to set up a camp. When they permit that to happen, and then they go back and forth and they seesaw, they just embolden the people who were doing that, and then the professional agitators that want to come in and create chaos. But when this first began is when they should have shut it down. No, you're not going to be able to camp out here overnight. That's not going to occur. So what happens is you give a little inch, a little inch, a little inch, and now we have what we have happening right now, which is embarrassing to the city of Los Angeles, to UCLA. And then they look, where's LAPD? Why doesn't LAPD solve the problem? Well, the university and the administration is the one that needs to stop this. Don't depend on the police to do the job that you're supposed to do as administrators and the folks that run UCLA. It's their responsibility to maintain a safe campus.
And Dennis,
we come in and clean up when they can't do what they needed to do.
And Dennis, that was my point earlier in our broadcast when we talked about that broken windows theory of policing, something I'm sure you're well familiar with, which is basically you can't just...
And that holds true.
Right.
Once you see this happening, and once they start gathering and then start to become combative, I mean, they should have responded, UCLA should have responded right away and put out a call, a tactical call that we may need your assistance, LAPD, stand by. LAPD can then start putting a plan together. But now, after almost 3 hours of time, or 2 hours of time, it's like, oh, let's wake up and do something. I mean, the cat's out of the barn. The barn's on fire. Now we're going to put together what we can put together.
It's a street fight down below.
And there's so many, and there's a lot of folks who are still criticizing USC for making that decision, for the fact that the first day when they were putting out an encampment, they said, no, you're not going to do that here. That's not what we're doing. And they asked LAPD for help, and LAPD moved in at the time and place of their choosing and got everybody out in a peaceful manner. And then they got so much pushback from the politics of all this, from some of the students on campus, that they've allowed a sort of encampment now on USC's campus, but they shut down the campus. They've been very, very clear about not letting people that aren't students there, and they've taken a bunch of security measures that have not been taken at UCLA. And so UCLA's outcome is different with this because they have allowed this criminal element of people who are not students on campus onto the campus, who are now a part of this, and they have shown no consequences for the folks who set up an illegal encampment in the first place, and no consequences for these violent agitators who are in opposition to the folks who have set up this encampment. And both of them have been able to not follow the rules of what's supposed to happen on a campus, and this pristine, elite college experience now looks more like anarchy, and the leaders still haven't said anything, and we still haven't seen them.
Exactly, but that's what you look at. Leaders, you mentioned the word leaders. Where is the leadership when they need to do what's right? And those students that have studied hard, the parents have spent thousands of dollars to get them there, and where's the graduation going to be? The graduation is not going to be what it needs to be. And this campus is going to be surrounded and with the image that's going to be continued throughout the country. I now see we have police officers. No, those aren't. Those are security officers who really haven't done anything.
Yeah, they're just standing there.
Private security who Gina Silva talked to, or tried to anyway, and they're not armed, and they said they were just here just to stand here. So we felt the same way. We had the same reaction. Oh, good, there is some security or law enforcement on scene, and you see them there on the steps, and they're just standing there. So it looks like somebody else being tended to down below from Skyfox, this live picture here, because of the pepper spray, the after effects and the stinging. All of our crew, not all of them, but a few of them have been dealt with that tonight. Chelsea Edwards most certainly, and Elliot Mendoza, the photographer, got pepper sprayed when we were coming on the air at 11. We had to give them a moment to reconvene and get their wits about them again. A very painful experience. It does look like a street fight. It literally looks like a street fight down below, Dennis.
And Dennis, I'm curious.
A mob scene. It's become a mob scene.
I'm curious. Well, let me just read this real quick. I got an alert, and then I have a question for you, Dennis. Around 10:55 p.m. Tuesday, private security told a Daily Bruin reporter to call the LAPD. As of 12:51 a.m., Daily Bruin reporters in Dixon Plaza cannot identify any police on the scene. The Daily Bruin, the campus newspaper, said. Dennis, I'm curious from your perspective, not as a member of LAPD. Do you have something, Marlon?
Well, I was just going to note that UCLA Chancellor Gene Block, he is just a couple of, weeks away now from retiring. He is stepping down from UCLA. That was announced last summer, that he has decided to step down from the helm of the nation's top-ranked public university. And so he, in his last day on campus, apparently is supposed to be July 31st of this year. So I just thought that was interesting to note as this is happening on his campus that he has no control over. Go ahead. And
Dennis, let me just get that last question to you. If you're a member of the LA City Council right now, which you've also done,
yes.
What would be going through your mind in that perspective, and sort of knowing the way the city works?
Well, if I was still an LA City Councilman, I would be there, and I would be calling the watch commander from West Los Angeles to say, what are you doing about this situation? That's what I would have done, is to get there and determine, what are you doing? Now, I'm still a level 1 reserve officer, so I have the same rights, privileges, responsibilities as a uniformed officer, but the fact is, what are you doing? Well, UCLA hasn't called us. Well, why hasn't UCLA called us? But to watch this from 11 o'clock to see where it's become, and now at 107. I mean, this is in the city of the angels. This is embarrassing as can be. But I look at UCLA, the primary agency. What are you doing? And I saw when there were some UCLA police cars, and they vanished. They went away. You can't turn your back on this type of situation. It's just like a fire. It gets worse. You've got to address it, and you've got to use the appropriate resources to contain and to reestablish order. This has turned into a circus, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, let's get the National Guard in there.
Well, before that, you're going to bring in the Highway Patrol, the LA County Sheriff's Department. If it gets to that degree, there's other folks you'll bring in. But the LAPD has the resources to handle it. You just got to get them at that location. And again, they're coming from West Bureau and where other bureaus are being activated. They probably initiated attack alert an hour or so ago. But again, the LAPD still has to service the entire city of Los Angeles with all the other kind of calls that take place, the 9/11 calls that continue. And we got fights breaking out all over this place. There's going to be people injured, people hurt, people going to the hospitals. We've already seen with the paramedics, items being thrown. But this is really embarrassing for UCLA, and it's embarrassing that law enforcement didn't get there sooner and at the end of this catastrophe that we're watching live unfold on Fox 11.
Embarrassing is a nice word for what we are seeing. You know, shameful might be a better word, and it is really distressing, I think. And these are images that will be seen all over the country as sort of a flashpoint in this conflict, and it has felt like, you know, the pot keeps getting hotter, and it you know, somebody needs to cool this situation down, because somebody's going to get killed in one of these. If it's not tonight, it's another one of these demonstrations, and because this is not sustainable, this sort of setup that we're looking at right now.
But as far as the graduation ceremony, which a lot of these folks weren't able to graduate because of the pandemic, and they may just cancel the graduation and say, we'll mail your diploma. So the students who really studied and did well, they're going to be suffering consequences from this, because who knows what demonstrations are going to take place once they get to the graduation stage, which is right around the corner.
Yeah, of course, USC has canceled its main commencement, but not its smaller commencements. Yeah. UCLA's commencement is later because they do quarters. That's in June. So far, that is supposed to go on as scheduled, but as we know, things can change. So we have been on well past our bedtime tonight watching this. Dennis, we thank you.
Oh, we see a highway patrol officer roll up. We see two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
We thank you for your perspective tonight,
Dennis.
And staying up late with us.
You.
It's very, very valuable. We know people not only here but around the country have been watching us both on Fox 11 and I understand on Fox News Channel earlier tonight.
Alrighty.
So we're going to stay on top of this with our crews throughout the night. We are getting the word from our management that it's time to wrap up our coverage for now. But Good Day LA is going to have complete coverage starting at 4 a.m., if not earlier, based off of what we're seeing here on the campus of UCLA.
Yeah, and if they do start at 4 a.m., that is just a couple more hours away, really. So we thank you for being with us tonight as we've witnessed history on the campus of UCLA in Westwood, and the fighting continues there, but it was good to see at least two highway patrol officers just pull up as we are now getting ready to sign off. This started on Good Night LA at 11 o'clock. I'm Marla Tejas. I thank you for being with us alongside Alex Michelson.
Be well, and hopefully there is a somewhat peaceful resolution to this. We will stay on top of it. More updates at foxla.com. Good night to everybody, and we'll be talking about this one for a long time. Thanks for being with us.
It's perfect for you. Don't want to wait? The Mathis Design Studio is the
the Speaker, as well as all of our chairs, who will ensure this is a top priority for House Republicans. There can be no moral equivalency. It is time to send a clear message to the world that anti-Semitism has no place in America. The world is indeed watching. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our whip, Tom Emmer.
Thank you, Lisa. Our House Republican Conference is here today to deliver a message to the pro-terrorist anti-Semites taking over our college campuses. We're here to deliver a message to the university administrators who have chosen to be complicit in these movements for hate rather than taking action. And we're here to deliver a message to Hamas, Iran, and members of the squad, including my Minnesota colleague Ilhan Omar, who have all endorsed these anti-Semitic protests that enough is enough. Accountability is here. Our college campuses should never be breeding grounds for anti-Semitism. Yet that is exactly what they have become. Why? Because of university administrators who have refused to protect their Jewish students. Because of faculty members who have enabled the wave of anti-Semitic violence. Because of an administration that has tried to play both sides of this issue. And because of far-left members of Congress who are applauding anti-Semitism on college campuses. In other words, it's because we have a bunch of adults in a room who are refusing to be the adults in the room. While no one else is standing up to lead during this pivotal moment in history, House Republicans will. I want to thank Speaker Johnson and our committee chairs for providing much-needed accountability on an issue that has been met with a disturbing amount of indifference and even encouragement from the people who are supposed to keep our students safe. The world is watching to see how we respond, and I, for one, am grateful to be part of a conference that will be on the right side of history. And with that, I turn it over to our leader, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Whip. Since October 7th, when a terrorist organization backed by Iran, known as Hamas, invaded Israel, you have seen a growing wave of anti-Semitism. Obviously, in Israel, we saw a war declared on them. And Israel said, we're going to defend our state. And you saw, by the way, these colleagues here and so many of my House colleagues stand and say, we support Israel's right to defend themselves as a Jewish state. But something else alarming that you started to see happen after that is when we started taking action here. And that is when you started seeing anti-Semitism grow here in the United States, here on college campuses, and in fact, here on the House floor by some of our colleagues on the other side. And we've been speaking out against it vocally. This is an area where you have to learn from the mistakes of history. Because if you don't learn from the mistakes of history, we're all doomed to repeat it. Let's not forget what happened in the lead up to World War II. And so when you see some of the things that these, whether you call them terrorist sympathizers, anarchists, they're organized. When they show up and they all have the same kind of tents, when they all are from out of state in many of these places where they're showing up, it's an organized mob trying to ensue chaos and breed anti-Semitism. And if we don't stand up against it every place we see it, and more importantly, if we don't call on those people whose main job is to protect the people that they're tasked with looking over. Look at these college presidents. You know, and we're asking all of our committee chairs to look into the billions of federal taxpayer dollars that go to these universities. And part of the reason it goes to these universities is so they could provide a good education for their students, so they could provide a safe environment for their students. And if these presidents won't provide that safe environment, then those university presidents need to go. They need to resign. And we've been very vocal about calling on them to step down as well, because they're not only failing their students, but they're disgracing the universities. Many of these universities that have had long and storied reputations that are being tarnished. Many of them permanently. Students and parents that won't even send their kids to these schools anymore because their kids are no longer safe. And we're seeing it play out today on many campuses across the nation. But here in this House, with our majority, we're going to continue to hold these people accountable for the money that they get and for the failures that they're ensuing. If you look at what happened, and Elise touched on it a little earlier, over 1 billion people watched that video that she talked about. Over 1 billion people watched a congressional hearing. I'd like to think there's interest that high in every congressional hearing we have. But America's watching, and even more than that, the world is watching. And so we need to continue to show the moral clarity between right and wrong and call out anti-Semitism and attacks on Jewish people and anybody else for their faith as for what it is, and stand up against the people that are doing it. And leading the charge, the person who had the first hearing in her committee months ago is the chair of the Education and Workforce Committee. Somebody who's tough, going after the people that are doing all of this, Virginia Fox.
Thanks, Steve. I want to thank the Speaker also for making this an all-of-the-House issue. It is an all-of-the-House issue. It's an issue for our country. As Republican leaders, we have a clear message for mealy-mouthed, spineless college leaders. Congress will not tolerate your dereliction of duty to your Jewish students. American universities are officially put on notice that we have come to take our universities back. I applaud the Speaker for expanding the Committee on Education and Workforce's ongoing investigation into a Congress-wide initiative. No stone must go unturned while buildings are being defaced, campus greens are being captured, or graduations are being ruined. College is not a park for play-acting juveniles or a battleground for radical activists. Everyone affiliated with these universities will receive a healthy dose of reality. Actions have consequences. One of those consequences is that I have given notice to appear to Yale, UCLA, and Michigan to appear before the Education and Workforce Committee on May 23rd for a hearing on their handling of these most recent outrages. I look forward to working with my fellow House leaders on additional action to address these riots, and I yield to Frank Lucas.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And thank you, Speaker Johnson, for taking action on this important issue. Right now, Jewish students facing harassment, discrimination, and in some case violence at our colleges and universities. This anti-Semitism is unacceptable, and it goes against who we are as Americans. We entrust our colleges and universities with conducting scientific research and educating the next generation of leaders and innovators. They can't do that when students are being driven off of campus by shocking displays of anti-Semitism. What's more, universities that can't protect their students are not in compliance with their funding obligations through the National Science Foundation. Funding through NSF accounts for about 25% of all federal support to America's college and universities for basic research. As a part of the conditions of receiving taxpayer dollars through the NSF, universities must comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin. Schools like Columbia and UC Berkeley annually receive more than $50 million each in NSF grants. It's time we review whether universities that allow the harassment, assault, or intimidation of their Jewish students are in compliance with their federal obligations. We'll be looking to conduct oversight on this issue very soon. Thank you for your time here today, and I now turn to my colleague, Chairwoman Kathy McMorris-Rodgers.